Hello everyone, today I'm going to try and do some replications of some of the papers in the Simple Stories Simply Vintage Berry Fields. So if you've watched the first video, you'll know that I made a knockoff kit, and today my goal is to make some of the background papers that are similar and have the same mood and feel as the Simple Stories ones. So the first one I'm starting with is the Farmer's Market paper. So I selected this sheet as my background. It has a similar feel to the Farmer's Market one. It's got some flowers here. We've got this ledger aged paper for the background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the strawberries and some of the strawberry flowers and leaves that are missing, and try and create that whole mood and feel of that particular paper. Now, I'm not after perfection. In fact, if you actually look at this paper, you will see that it is not perfect either. It is very much a loose watercolor painting. If we look at these strawberries, there's very little detail, and what they've done is once they've painted the watercolor images on, they've gone over it with some black pen or ink, maybe a fine line marker even, to add some of the details. But everything is very loose and simple. So that is the look we're going for, something loose and simple. Having said that, these objects in the image on the paper are really big. Like if you cut that into 4 6x6s, you can see that this strawberry, those 3 strawberries actually, are taking up that whole 6x6 section. So they're big strawberries and they're big flowers and they're big leaves. So I'm going to have a go doing that, and we'll see what we end up with. It should be fun. Let's get onto it. The first thing you need to paint, obviously, is some brushes. I'm using these ones. There we go. Got 3 brushes there. I'm going to have, you need some clean water. I always recommend having 2 glasses of water. One is to clean your brushes, and the other one is to use as clean water on your painting. I'm going to mix it up in my media that I'm using. So I'm going to use some of the Distress Oxide ink, and then also I'm going to use some of my watercolor paints. And I'll explain why as I go along so you can see that. But first up, what we need to do is we need to put some guidelines or some little drawings on here to guide us in where we're going. So as I said, those strawberries are really big, and I've got my mat here so I can work out roughly where they are. So the bottom of the strawberry is approximately here, and I'm putting a little pencil line, and I'll be able to take that out later. These 2 smaller strawberries, let me just bring this back in so you can see. These 2 smaller strawberries would be lower than 6 inches. So they're roughly in this location, and I'm just putting some very simple lines where I'll add those in there. If we're looking at the leaves, that leaf is massive. It comes right across to the edge of the page, and it's probably, I would say, 1.5 inches up from the bottom. So I'm just going to put a little dot there just to show me how far I'm going. And if we look at these big flowers, I am going to add some more flowers in. Even though I've got these lovely daisies happening here, I am going to put some of these strawberry flower designs in here. So they sit under that little strawberry there. But if we're looking at it, it's probably like a good 2 inches, I think. Like that bottom of the flower is probably about there. And of course we've got this one that's coming up from the bottom here, and a few more which will travel up the page here. So remembering this line is for our big strawberry here. If we look at approximately how low that is on the paper, it is probably only like 2 inches down. So let's do that. There's about this big. So top of that first strawberry is the central strawberry there is, you know, it's big, it's that big. Then we need to work out where we're putting this one in, the corner one. Now if you look at the central, if we look at the central one, we can see that this one, the edge of it is about halfway. So it's going to be coming to probably that purple line. I'm just going to pull a mark there, and then it's, I would say, about this wide. Now I might be out a bit, and that's fine, because we're just trying to get that mood and feel. We're not trying to recreate it to look exactly like this. And have fun with it. If you're having a go doing this yourself, make it fun. Don't take it so seriously. Now, one thing I'm going to check also is the width of that strawberry. And I'm thinking that we're at about 2.5 wide. We might go there for width. About 1.5 to about there, I think. So our main strawberries there. And then we've got this one in this top area here. So looking at that, we've got that one there. I think we've got about that much gap. So I'm going to put a little mark there to represent that part. And once again, it's quite a big strawberry. So we're going about, I think we're going to pull it right over to here. That wide. So the first leaf I'm actually going to put in is through here, this one. Can you see that? Okay, so let's get busy with the actual painting. So I said we need 2 glasses of water. I'm going to move those up here out the way for the moment. And the reason is I want you to see over here what I'm doing. This is like my mixed media platform. It is just a piece of black Perspex and a recycled piece. It was something that was actually a door, a sliding door of like a serving cabinet, you know, that you put all your plates and things in. It does the job perfectly for using the mixed media products on, in particular the Oxide inks. So that's what I'm doing. Now, I'm going to start with this Distress Oxide pine needles for these little leaves. So we've got some little branches of leaves, and this is what I'm going to use. I'll use the smaller, thinner brush so I can keep it nice and delicate. And I need to think about how long that is, and if I look at it, it's about 1.5 inches through there. So we're going down to about here, maybe. All right, so I have put a bit of ink down, but I will put a bit more on here. So you can see it shows up quite well on the black Perspex. And then picking up some clean water here and activating the Oxide ink. And going to just loosely put that in. So I need to put some petals in first. There's one at the top there. Remember, we're just keeping it nice and loose. does not need to be perfect by any means. Now mine's actually going to have a different amount of leaves on, but we'll get the same story happening. We'll get the same sort of effect. Did have one through here coming out of the strawberry, or behind the strawberry I should say. So I have definitely got more leaves, and that's fine. This is my work, it is not, I'm not trying to completely replicate what we've got happening. In the design, I'm just trying to get the same mood and feel. And in this little, they've got a little leaf coming from behind here as well. Okay, so there's mine. I've got a few extra leaves on there, and that's fine. Now you can see how beautifully this pine needles ink works to represent that colour that they've used. Okay, so I'm going to move this out the way. Oops. And we're working up here. So we've got, remember we put this line here to show where this strawberry roughly was. So we're going to put a few more leaves through there. I'm using the same Oxide ink that I was using before. And we need a leaf at the top. Now we can see the ledger paper coming through. If that bothers you, just put more ink on. If that is an issue for you, if you're not happy with that, just double your layers of your ink. I personally don't care. Right. There we go, adding another little leaf. See how easy it is. There's no stress involved in this at all. Any of you could do this. You just need some mixed media materials. Okay, now down here, oops, so I'll need to move that up so you can see. Down here we've also got one of these branches of leaves coming up at the side. What I'm going to do is make it look like there's one coming behind this section here. So it won't be exactly like their design because they don't have these big daisies on their page. But I am going to try and bring that in. So I'm going to work behind. I have to stop and work behind this. And I'm taking that one actually off the page, which is a well-known artist technique, is to have things actually hanging off your page because then it leads the viewer's eye. Oops, I need some more ink. Some more down there. It leads the viewer's eye off the page as well. So remember, it's your design, so if you think it needs more stronger lines and colors, do it. So I've putting in some veins there. They haven't actually got veins on theirs, but I just feel like it needs a little bit more colour. And this is why we say it is completely up to you. When you're painting anything, make it your own. I like that because we've got, of course, these lime greens happening down here. So I'm going to put some more colour through here. So quiet in my house today because my husband has gone off for a boys' weekend. So I'm having this lovely time getting just to play with all my supplies and not have to worry about making dinner or any of that sort of stuff that usually takes up time on my weekend. There we go. There's the first leaves. Next one, I'm going to put these in here. Now, we're going to change. We're going to change our colour. So we're not going to use the Oxide ink now. We're going to use a watercolour, which is darker. Let's get our watercolours in. Let's pop these out the way. Right. Not sure, I'll just have to pop it down in this corner, so hopefully you'll be able to see. Now, if you've watched one of my painting tutorials before, you'll know that my set is actually from Japan. I bought it when I was in Japan. So all the color names and everything is in Japanese, which I can't read. So I did this little swatching, so I know which colors I'm using. So I think I'm going to go with this one here. It's a little bit more olivey than the green that they have used. I think it will work okay because it actually will tie in better with this. I'll use some of this one as well. Okay, so we're picking up our paint. Make sure it's nice and wet. When it's watercolor paint, we definitely need a lot of water happening. So because this is so green, I'm going to bring in some of this minty colour. I'm going to get some warpage with this when you're doing this because, of course, it's scrapbooking paper. It's not watercolour paper. So it's not made to have that look of watercolour paper and the absorbency of watercolour paper. If we look at this flower, the leaf that's up here near our small, what are we calling them? Strawberries, yep. So I need to pull some of this up and add a leaf through here. So I can tell already, because of the colours that I've chosen to use, that my design is going to be more realistic in the colour range. Not realistic in the painting style, but definitely realistic in the colour range. And my greens are much darker. They're almost picking up some of the greens that are on there, which is fine because we're just going for a mood and feel. It does not have to be identical. All right, and then we've got this big one. Now, this is tricky because I've already got this in here. Am I going to put that in there? I might leave that till last. What I am going to put in now is some of these flowers. Now, if you look at them up close, it is very simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a 5-petaled flower. And I'm going to go bigger though with my brush this time. Yeah, might use this one. Okay, now my water, if you've noticed, it's got very green. So this has now become the brush washing pot, and this is my clean water that I'll be using for painting. Okay, so I've got this lovely creamy gold, which I think will do it very nicely. And so we've got one petal through here. So one of the good things with watercolour is that some areas will be opaque and some will be translucent. Now see what's happening here? So I didn't wait for my green to dry. And that is pretty much what's happened here. You can see they've got bleeding happening. And that's because they're being like me and being impatient and not waiting for the green to dry. It's always better if you do actually wait for your green to dry before you paint in a second colour, but we're in a hurry, so, and we're not going for perfection. If you actually do look at this, they have gone over with white over the top later, which we will do as well, but we need to get this to dry out first. See how loose it is? You don't have to hardly use any care at all, just knocking it in there. It's putting some rough colour in. Now we've got some further up here, so I'm just going to put those in while I've got that colour happening. It's so fun. It's just messing around with it. And then it's just got these little marks like this, highlighting parts of flowers. And we'll come around there. This white through here. Just lightening up the flower colour really. I would probably come through later also with a white paint pen. That would add to it and highlight it even more. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is start putting in the base of our strawberries. So I'm going to use Candied Apple Oxide ink, and the reason I'm using this is because it's got the right warm tone that these strawberries have. However, on top of that, I'll be adding some watercolour for some bigger strength. Now, guaranteed, my strawberries, like my leaves, are going to be much stronger in colour because I'm not being too pedantic about what I'm using here. You know, so right, so we've got a strawberry down here. And we're going to put in the red here and over here for these big ones. Don't look anything at this point like strawberries, but trust me, they will when we're finished. Okay, and then we're supposed to have one over here as well. Oh, I didn't put that leaf in. I better do that first. Hang on a moment. Just drop that other leaf in there. Up here. I'll do it around there, keeping it loose. And then we're going to put in more of our candied red. which looks quite almost peachy under these lights here because it's so warm. And we're going around here. Happening. Okay. Looks a bit different to what they've got, but that's all right. Okay, so now we're going to add some watercolour in to get our stronger reds. And I've got a few to choose from. So I've got this really lovely one here, which is very strawberry red. And then I've got this darker one, which will help bring in some of those dark shadows. Now, as I said before, our strawberries are probably going to be redder than theirs because I'm always heavy-handed with everything, and chances are I will add too much paint like I've done on the leaves. And yeah, we'll be having very strawberries. Okay, so we're going to add some, and I think I'm changing my brush too, actually. Let's get that big brush, quite like that big brush. So I am going to put in, let's see, look how red this is. Much redder, but I really like it because to me it's more strawberry-like. So I'm just going to put some of the dark red in, which is quite such gorgeous colours. My apologies to anyone that's going, well, it doesn't look anything like what you had, but or what the paper has, but it's working for me. Do it mood and feel, people. Right, we're going to dry it off. Okay guys, so we've got our basics in. It is much more vibrant than the original paper, but that's okay. We're still going for mood and feel, and I think it will turn out okay once I add the detail. So to do that, what I'm going to use, which may surprise you, is an ordinary black ballpoint pen. You could try using fine line permanent marker or Sharpie, but what I think you'll find is that there's a chance that it could bleed. You want to make sure this is perfectly dry before you add any detail. And when I'm talking about the detail, I mean like the little black seeds, which are on the strawberries there, and the outlines of the flowers and the stamens on the flowers. And then also there is some highlighted areas on the leaves as well that have been drawn in with black or painted in. So for me, the easiest option is to draw it in, and that's what I'm going to do. Let's see how it goes.